Welcome to AFMC TV. I'm Robin Ledbetter.
The goal of that is to maximize people's quality of life, right?
You want to make sure that your housing is affordable in your community.
We have to think about vaccines in a way that we haven't thought about them before.
I had a lot of the legislative adults who were very creative.
Down on the floor and play with their kids.
AFMC TV, thanks for watching and have a great day. Welcome to AFMC TV. I'm Robin Ledbetter. Thank you for joining us. Today I have with me Sydney Grant. She's a sergeant and the boating law administrator for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Sydney, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So as families spend more time outdoors on Arkansas lakes, rivers, public lands, why is this an important time to be talking about water and outdoor safety?
Yeah, really, we just want to bring those safety concerns, to the forefront of people's minds and just make sure they're knowledgeable before they set out on the water and make sure they're preparing ahead of time.
And from the Game and Fish Commission's perspective, what are the biggest safety concerns that you see each year during boating and hunting seasons?
A lot of it's, if we want to talk about, we've kind of been focusing on drowning. So water related stuff, it's lack of life jacket wear, lack of education, whether it be hunting or boating. We see multiple aspects. People not paying attention, it really affects people on the water, and it does hunting as well, especially, if they're going hunting and they're not going out ahead of time and, checking their stands, making sure there's stuff that needs to be replaced on them.
And drowning remains one of the leading causes of preventable injury deaths, especially among children. So what are the most important messages every family should know before heading to the water?
Yeah, really. It's very unfortunate as far as stuff that people might prepare for. Really making sure that you have proper boundaries at home as far as from your swimming pools, your hot tubs, making sure you have those barriers set up, making sure that you're paying attention. Drowning happens really, really fast and it can happen in a small amount of water. So being vigilant, paying attention, whether it be a swimming pool, a kiddie pool, a sink, a bathtub, really just you're watching your kids, making sure you have proper barriers. And then when you're going out to the lakes or the river or, even a swimming pool, make sure your kids, especially if they don't have swimming ability, make sure they have those life jackets on.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about drowning and water safety?
As far as related to, you mean like how fast it happens and everything? Yeah. So, drowning happens really fast. It's usually not going to present itself as somebody, yelling for help and waving their arms like you'd see on TV. Usually it's pretty quiet. It happens, like I said, very, very fast, small amount of water, but usually you're going to see them barely slapping the water, or you may see just a little small portion of their mouth up. And they're usually not able to yell because they're in trouble. They're fatigued already. And that's already an issue. And so, really just kind of making yourself aware that it doesn't present it as it usually does, and knowing that ahead of time to be able to recognize those warning signs.
And life jackets save lives, yet many people don't wear them. What advice do you give to families about choosing and consistently wearing life jackets? Yeah,
and life jacket wear is essential, and that life jacket's really only good if you put it on. Things happen during accidents. You may be a good swimmer, but something may happen outside of your control, whether it be an injury or, some bad weather or tidal conditions. So wearing that life jacket, we see instances where you have something that may have been a fatal accident, but had somebody had a life jacket on, it could have just simply, be a simple mistake that wouldn't even be reported. So in Arkansas, we have mandatory wear with life jackets, children 12 and under, other than a few exceptions. Individuals riding PWCs are required to wear them, so jet skis. And then if you're participating in towed water sport activities such as skiing or tubing, you're required to wear them at all times.
So beyond children, what safety recommendations would you offer adults who are boating, fishing, kayaking, even paddleboarding?
Yeah, of course, have an approved, proper fitting life jacket for everybody on board, and it's good to use those for the improved conditions. So the Coast Guard sets approval ratings, and it's got a specific, set of standards on there, what you wear them for. And like we just talked about, it's really important to wear them, even though you may not be required to wear them on a paddleboard or a kayak or, just a standard vessel. set that example for your children and wear them. And then, if something does occur, you've got a life jacket on, usually you're going to be okay.
So how can healthcare providers reinforce drowning prevention, even during routine visits with families?
Yeah, really, I think when it comes to children, with it being one of the leading causes of death, I think it's very important to start, with the education of parents, whether they provide safety materials or whether they have those conversations, in clinic. I think it'd be very important to discuss that.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Hunting is a valued tradition here in Arkansas. So what are the most important safety reminders for both experienced hunters and those heading into the field for the first time?
Yeah, so where boating is concerned, make sure you're wearing all your proper safety equipment. Make sure you have your proper safety equipment. One thing we see with hunters, they're overloading their vessels, so they've got a lot of gear. It's important not to exceed the manufacturer's capacity ratings when it comes to weight capacities, person capacities. Make sure that when you're loading your vessel, you may not be over the weight limit per se, but make sure you're moving that weight around and that you're maintaining good vessel stability. Another thing we see is hypothermia, especially in cold weather conditions around duck season. So make sure you know the warning signs, the weather. Make sure you know how to, properly respond to those situations.
And what role does hunter education courses play in preventing injuries, and who should be taking them?
Yeah, so I would say I would recommend that anybody take hunter education. It's very important. You learn about safe firearm handling techniques, the 4 rules of firearm safety. There's multiple, but there's 4 main ones as far as making sure what your target is, make sure you're not, swinging on game and shooting somebody else, treat all firearms as if they're loaded. So yeah, as far as tree stand safety, it's imperative. You learn a lot of stuff in hunter education that if you didn't grow up hunting or fishing, or, your parents didn't teach you, that you get a lot of important knowledge that's, that could help, save your life later on.
And you touched on some of these, but are there common injuries or preventable incidents that you see year after year that could be avoided with better education or preparation?
Yeah, with boating specifically, we do see injuries related to, lack of proper life jacket wear, inattention, people operating outside their skill level. With hunting, we see a lot of falls from tree stands, and then injuries related to the careless handling of firearms. And with outdoor recreation in general, we see injuries where maybe somebody just failed to, recognize an unsafe condition, or maybe they didn't research the weather, that day. So.
And we talked a little bit about how healthcare providers can really play a role in injury prevention. How can medical professionals partner with organizations like the Arkansas Game and Fish to help promote outdoor safety?
Yeah, I think we could continue our current education efforts, but then, potentially kind of put our heads together and maybe produce some streamlined messaging and outreach campaigns across, different media platforms, especially social media. I think we need to kind of focus on stuff that's really going to hit home, because unfortunately we kind of have that consensus, it won't happen to me. And so I think we really need to touch on some things, because, when you go out for any kind of outdoor recreation activity, you kind of have that vacation mentality, and that's why we love outdoor recreation, because we're going to de-stress. But really you need to have that, kind of be mindful of the risk and always have those in the back of your mind and be able to potentially react to that situation.
Are there current educational resources like programs, community events available that providers can recommend to patients and families?
As far as where Game and Fish is, I know multiple agencies probably have different things, but as far as where Game and Fish is concerned, we have topics related to hunting, fishing, boating safety. We have topics and education courses geared specifically towards women or unexperienced outdoor people, whether they want to go trapping, just the safe handling of all types of things, ATV safety. Anything you can name it, we've probably had some type of a course for it. So agfc.com is a really good website to check out for courses.
So before we go, if you could leave Arkansas families with one message about staying safe while enjoying the outdoors, what would it be?
Ultimately, other than having all your safety equipment and doing research of things. Tell someone where you're going. It's kind of, in boating, we call it filing a float plan. In hunting, it's the same thing. Let someone know where you're going when you plan to return. That way, if there's some kind of an issue, somebody knows, to call for help. Because often in rescue situations, when we have injuries or we're dealing with some sort of like cold weather situations, I mean, time plays a big factor in that. So file a float plan, tell someone where you're going.
And what are some overlooked safety precautions for kayaking, canoeing, and paddle sports? What are you seeing the most happen before we go?
Kind of like what we touched on, people are putting themselves in areas outside of their experience level. So they're putting themselves on flowing waters, flood stage conditions, and they're not really recognizing those dangers. And ultimately, we see individuals that they're not capable of swimming. They don't have any type of ability there, and they don't even have a life jacket on board, and they're not even, and especially not even wearing it. So wear that life jacket. Don't get it outside of your skill level.
And you mentioned the website. There's resources there. Tell us again what that is, and that it's for anyone, health providers, families, anyone that needs resource information.
Yeah, so it's our Game and Fish Commission website, www.agfc.com.
Excellent. Well, Sydney, thanks so much for being here and sharing this important information with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this episode of AFMC TV. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.